Hey, hey, I don't even know. Oh, you know where they do that on is The Office. With their thumbs out and they go, hey.
Yeah, it's what's the guy that wears the leather jacket?
Oh, yeah, Fonz. The Fonz.
The Fonz.
Hey. Well, I like it. Welcome back to the Ben and Zach podcast. I am Ben.
I am Zach.
Yes, and we are excited to talk to you today about dudes who provide, right? Being a provider.
Being a provider. One who provides. I think there's a lot to cover with this topic.
There is. This is a topic that I think about constantly. It's actually one of the main reasons I had wanted to start a podcast in the beginning.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully, like, for our listeners, you know, whatever your circumstances, whatever your situation, maybe, maybe you're single, but still, you know, creating a future for a future family, potentially. Maybe you've got 9 kids and you've got this thing all figured out, or you're just trying to stay afloat, or you're like us, 3 kids, you know, a few kids, and just always trying to do your best to provide.
Or you're living the awesome life and you're retired.
Or retired and you're like, these yahoos don't know what they're talking about.
Living the dream of dreams. But yeah, this subject, I mean, I have so many conversations with people about being a provider and having a job. And there's lots of different ways to discuss this subject, being a provider. But I think kind of the way I interpreted it is financially being a financial provider, because you can be a spiritual provider, you could be a fatherly provider or a emotional provider. I mean, lots of stuff like that. But I'm really kind of thinking of financial, so more tied to work and having a job, making sure that bills are paid, kids are taken care of, you know, that retirement, that type of stuff. And as mentioned in the previous podcast, something that's difficult for me, so because I don't think about spending less. Always want to spend more. But honestly, this subject is close to my heart just because I deal with anxiety, and it seems to stem around me being a provider, right? Me dealing with the stress and anxiety of knowing that my family is kind of riding on my career and my successes in my career. And that's just super hard to deal with sometimes. Super hard to deal with. Almost paralyzing in situations. And there's so many people like my age and like you had talked about, different age ranges that go through this. I mean, you yourself have even talked about the stress that this can put on your shoulders.
Absolutely. And I feel like that stress even begins before you have the actual responsibility of becoming a provider, right?
Seriously, yeah.
It's like you're clear back in school, there's this thought for what do you do beyond high school and into adulthood? Do you choose to get a college education, formal college education? Do you go to a trade school? Do you start up a company? And so even laying the path and the foundation for that, what chain of events is going to follow, like that's already stressful in and of itself, and you haven't even gotten there. Like you're spending money to prepare for it rather than even earning money, you know.
So just even the idea that you will be a provider, and
right?
You know, this is something that it's not. We're both male, and so that's kind of where our minds go. But this is something nowadays. You have both males, husbands and wives, males, females, with full careers where they're working full time, or my wife, for example, she was a hairstylist for a while, and we lived off of her income because I was at a startup and we were making nothing, and her career was what supported us. So she was the provider. But even then, at that time, I knew I should be providing, and that stress was really hard. But I'm sure that women who are also trying to provide for the family in various ways feel this stress. This isn't just a male-only thing.
Yeah.
But due to the fact that I'm not a woman, I don't think it's harder for me to relate to, obviously.
Yeah. And we'll get into the whole balancing act of all of those responsibilities as parents and spouses and those sorts of things, or even individuals. But yeah, so getting into this providing thing, like you mentioned that it's something like that you think about all the time. It's close to you. It's been a cause of angst and stress throughout your life. What are some of the components of being a provider? And you touched on, let's talk financially, that have created that stress and tension for you over the years.
Well, I think that as I was growing up, I knew that I wanted to do something with my life and my career that provided for the family. And I felt like if I didn't, then, I would let them down, that my kids wouldn't have the same opportunities if I wasn't providing for them. Or I tied a lot of my value, I think, as a dad and a father to my career or to my success in my career. Because those are two different things, right? There's tons of people who have careers that don't make very much money at all, but they're extremely happy and extremely successful. And then there's people who hate their job but make good money. Or just kind of blindly walked into something and got lucky. And when I first got married, I was going to school. I was excited about the future. Thought all these things were going to be great. And then as I got older and I started we got a mortgage, and then I had my first kid, and I started just feeling the weight of, you screw this up, or if you can't provide the money to handle these things, you'll lose your house, or you'll go into massive debt, and you're not supposed to go into debt, and those types of things just really, really weighed on me. And it wasn't really until 2014, when I was working at a startup. We lost our biggest client. Our revenue completely dropped out the bottom. And I thought we were going to have to close up the company, and I didn't know what I was going to do next. And it was like my real first taste of anxiety around, what am I going to do? How am I going to provide? And it knocked me, man. It knocked me bad. Like it floored me. And I didn't know exactly what to do. And thank goodness I had you and a few other business partners, and my wife, and my parents were just super helpful in that situation. But I think that created enough trauma in that moment that it's something that is recreated every time I feel like, am I not going to be able to provide? And it's a feeling that tons of people go through. But mainly it's just around that idea of, can I not provide for the needs of my family? And it's something that I deal with constantly. Even if things are going great, I still tend to have it floating in the back of my head. And I can't let it creep in and create this feeling of the world is ending and everything's terrible. When really everything is awesome.
Yeah. I'm right there with you, and I think you referenced 2014.
Yeah.
You had your first kid before that, but that was when you hit a business challenge, like
business challenge, yeah,
bump in the road.
That's when I had my third kid.
Oh yeah, okay.
That year, so it was like even the stress of new kids, and yeah, I thought I knew where I was headed, and then all of a sudden, just punch in the face.
Yeah.
It was hard.
I think that's when it really became real for me. Was, I feel like, man, my wife, like we need each other, but like really she doesn't need me.
Yeah. Give her 24 hours and we're, you're replaced. I'm replaced.
Just because of the woman she is, like she would land on her feet no matter what the circumstances. But like it became real for me when I had kids. And my oldest is almost 7 now, and so that's when things really changed for me, because like we were in a fine financial position at that point, but then it was like, this thing's only going to get harder and more expensive. And I think the thing that gets to me more than anything else is the unknown. Two things: the unknown, right? There's just always going to be stuff on the horizon, that whether on the expense side, unforeseen expenses, or whatever the challenges you may face. And then also the uncontrollable. Like when we as men are trying to measure up to being a quote unquote good provider, I think most of us will face the unknown or things outside of our control. I mean, you think of the different circumstances, because we should define this, like what is a good provider, or by what standard do you measure yourself to say I'm providing well, with the underlying we'll lay the foundation to say, of course there are things outside of our control, such as maybe there's somebody in your family that has a disability. Maybe there are medical bills that are through the roof, and that's always going to be a challenge. But that doesn't mean that you're not a good provider if you're facing financial stress. As a result, you're being stretched. So anyway, just to lay that foundation.
What is a good provider?
Yeah, what is a good provider? And how do you measure that? Like, what's your standard?
I don't know if I have the answer to that.
It's tough.
A good provider. Because I don't think that even if I had gotten let go at a job or fired or whatever, and I was looking for a new job and I was still trying, I don't think in that moment like I'm a bad provider. Maybe I think a provider is more about what you're about, right? Like what you're trying to do, and somebody who is trying to provide and is trying to really put forth their best foot is still, in my mind, a good provider. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't want to work hard, is lazy, just kind of doesn't take opportunities, or is looking to really take advantage of opportunities, or is looking really to advance their career or financial situation for the betterment of their family, that's when I think maybe you don't fit the bill of being a good provider. And remember, we're only talking financially here, right? I think that also part of that is being a good provider is managing correctly. And this is, like I said, it's difficult for me, but managing correctly what you've been provided with, right? So not only obtaining things, but then also working to make sure what you have been provided with is managed and maintained correctly. It's also a good provider.
A good steward of your family financials.
A person who thinks about spending less.
Wow.
Well-budgeted person.
Sage wisdom right there.
Stupid budgets, man. Stupid budgets. Difficult for some, easy for Zach.
I don't know. Yeah.
Definitely. Do you agree with that along those lines of what a good provider is?
I do, absolutely. I think it has everything to do with heart and effort, and like thinking of what that next step is. I think complacency is probably the biggest adversary to to that. And you know, there are times when we can even get to a point where we are a quote unquote good provider. I think that the obvious baseline to that is like, does your family have the necessities they need? And again, with the assumption that sometimes we face circumstances and you know, bumps in the road that even that becomes a great challenge, unforeseens and you know, just disasters really. But I think it has everything to do with the heart and the effort and where your intentions lie in the work that you're doing and what you're trying to make of a career and of your earnings. But I really like the point that you made there at the end, that like you're fiscally responsible with the things that you are provided with and that you're providing your family with, because there's a saying in one of the books that I think you and I have both read this, or at least talked about it, but
Curious George and the Man in the Yellow Hat.
Exactly. Yep. He gives George a bundle of balloons and floats away, and he forgot to keep some of those balloons for himself.
You always keep some of the balloons.
Keep the balloons
in storage.
No, but actually this has to do with a big hat. Ironically enough. No, the book The Millionaire Next Door. Yeah. It kind of hits more on the focus of the book, I guess, is like not living in a material way, but more living within your means.
Yeah.
I think is the importance of the book. But they talk about this rancher who, you know, he built a fortune, and, you know, I think he talks about at one point somebody came into the office and they see him and they're like, hey, we'd like to talk to, you know, the boss, the head honcho here. And they had no idea that it would be this guy. Anyway, it ends up being him, and then and they wanted to, I think the gist of it was they wanted to understand like how he had built this and how he was successful, and used the phrase, you know, there's a lot of other ranchers out there who have a big hat but no cattle. And his point was that, you know, sometimes we can make a lot of money, but if we're spending a lot of money, especially on stuff that's like
big hats,
not going to carry value, or big hats.
Yeah.
I don't know what the resale value of big hats is. Maybe it is a good investment. But the point being that, like, you know, we need to live within our means. And that's the definition of means is like, or what the means are is different for everybody.
Well, so let's get a little bit more honest and vulnerable here, right? So it seems like there are so many people out there that I've spoken with, because I'm pretty open about things I've faced, anxiety, stuff like that. Seems like there's a lot of people out there who maybe even have good jobs or have a good career, are providing, but still seem to be unhappy in the situation they're in, which can also be problematic, because then as a provider, you might be financially providing for your family, but emotionally you're not there. And that's tied to the financial side of things, right? Because you get stuck in a situation where you're like, well, I got to provide, but I don't like where I'm going, or I don't like what I'm doing, or I'm afraid I'm going to lose what I'm doing. And I think, man, for me, I think that emotional tie to that situation is what's the most difficult, right? So for you, when you're talking about being a provider and what you do and whether or not you like it, or, you know, you don't have to go into details with that, but just like what do you think, like what do you think is the tie there, and why are some people financially good providers but maybe just not happy in their situation? Like how do you conquer both of those?
Yeah, good question. I've thought a lot about this. You know, I think if there's anything that I've taken away from, especially the last couple of years, and part of that was, you know, I just graduated not even a year ago from an MBA program to kind of help further my career. But there was in one of my classes in particular was a focus on the difference between happiness and meaning, and that it's not always necessary to chase happiness per se.
Waterfalls.
Don't go chasing them.
You don't want to chase waterfalls, so I've learned.
Yeah, there's no meaning in waterfalls. I guess you could find it, but yeah, but like what are you doing to create meaning in your life? And so I've always wondered how many people, like what percentage of people, if we were to take a poll today, do you think would say absolutely love what they do for a living, regardless of what they make?
No, none. Zero. That's how I feel. I mean, there was probably some, but I feel like it's zero.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Like, I feel like... Who gets to do their dream job?
Like, actually wake up and say, man, I get to go do my job today. I'm so stoked.
I don't know. My guess is they're people who are really good at dealing with the stress of being a provider. Or they're people who are completely loaded, that they don't care, and they get to go work at Nickelcade. Because that's the dream job, really.
For sure. Can you imagine coming home every night with those prizes you got from the 10,000 tickets?
Oh my gosh.
Like 2 lollipops?
You could beat Battletoads, X-Men, and Simpsons every day.
Every single day.
And get lupus. The flu. Let's say the flu.
Get the flu.
Oh, man. But that's what I mean. I'm serious. Like, I feel like so many dudes are just, like, going through the motions, but just not really that stoked about things.
Yeah.
And it sucks, man. It's sad.
Yeah, so I guess my thought on that is, and that's not to say that the other, the other 99.9%, or I guess 100% according to your math, hates their job.
Right.
They just, it's not something that they're actually looking forward to doing. But when they get into it and they're trying hard and they're working to increase knowledge and skill and ability and be good at what they do, and then maybe broaden their horizons. If it's not what they like to do, then try to pivot to something else. But man, that's the difficulty of like the whole system of education and career. It's like you pick an educational path, you follow that, it leads you to a career path, and how are you actually finding out what you love without actually trying it first?
Well, and then do you find out when you have 3 kids at home, a wife, and a mortgage? Mm-hmm. And then once you find it out, it's like, well, doesn't necessarily mean I can go do it, because I got to take care of these things. And like my current situation, my current job that I'm in, I can genuinely say I love the people I work with. The industry's a little new to me, but I really like it. But it's not, if I had 10 billion in the bank, that's not exactly what I would make me wake up in the morning sprinting to my desk excited to get going. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what I was talking about when I said zero. Like, are there really people who are just absolutely ecstatic about what they're doing?
Yeah.
And if they are, great for them. I mean, that's awesome. And not zero. I really think there are some that really do enjoy that. But love to hear about it and hear maybe how they got there. And was it something they planned on, or did they take a leap and go into it, or what's the situation?
Yeah. Do you love what you do? Let us know what you do. Or do you hate what you do, and you feel like it's more just to get by, and what are you doing about it? Would love to hear both of those. But I will say I've had conversations with both. I've had conversations with people who tell me they really love what they do. And I've had those and I've seen the change, like, oh, actually, no, this is not for me. I saw somebody go from a financial advisor to a dentist. I saw an entrepreneur who owned a shoe store go to a doctor in his 40s and 50s.
Jeez.
Like they
went after it.
Course corrected, I guess. And after all that student loan debt and everything else, like you wonder in the end, like, was it the right move? And maybe.
Well, I now that you're saying this too, I have a family member, extended family, who is a principal, and it's what he wanted to do ever since he was, I want to say, early high school, middle school, and he is, and he seems to love it. So maybe he is kind of living his dream, his daily weight. He gets up and he's like, man, I'm doing what I always wanted to do. So yeah, maybe he is living the dream. We could have him on one day.
We should.
And he could also tell us about all of the crazy experiences he deals with as a principal.
the high school shenanigans.
Yes. Well, now it's a middle school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I maybe should just strive to be more positive or have a better outlook on what can I get to that? Do you think I can get to that point where I wake up in the morning, I'm like, woohoo?
I think for sure. I think mindset, if anything, I've learned that from you. Like I'm not the one to be taking advice in that realm, but like, yeah, mindset has so much to do with how much we enjoy anything, right? It's just the attitude with which we approach something. But I also find that even when it may not be something that you're passionate about or really enjoy doing, you can find meaning within the things that you're doing by just like facing a challenge and overcoming it, or just trying hard and learning something new. Yeah. So there's little tidbits to take away each and every day in your work.
It's funny because I think there's probably somebody, well, I don't know if there's somebody listening to this podcast, but maybe there's somebody there who's just like screaming the answer right now at the phone or radio, or however they're listening to this. Radio. At the phone. At the Spotify channel. With a good solution or with an answer, or maybe we're just missing something. But I mean, I love to hear any thoughts or solutions about any of this, because like we said in the beginning, we're not professionals, but you know, these are experiences, and I love that we have the possibility of building a subscriber network of people who have good answers to these types of things. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to read their comments, talk about them, even invite certain people on who have good solutions to these things, to these topics we discuss. Because, yeah, I haven't figured it out. I think I've figured out through therapy and just time how to manage the situation of being a provider, and it still has its ups and downs, days where it's really hard, days where it's not so hard. Through the help of, like I said earlier, family, friends, but I think there's always stuff to be learned. Agreed. And people that can help.
Yeah. I think one takeaway from my own situation is that, you know, I'm 12 to 15 years deep in my career, and I've done consistently over time really the same thing, just kind of, you know, climbing that ladder, for lack of better words, and advancing my career, but like it's been in the same field. And I will say that I think I discovered fairly early on that maybe what I had chosen to do for a vocation may not be the thing that I was like most passionate about, and got up every day out of bed with a burning desire to go and do it.
Well, you got up every morning with a burning, but maybe not a desire to go to work.
In my bladder. I drank a lot of water before bed, okay? But I will say that I've worked with so many good people that I enjoy being around, you know, and it really comes down to me. My experience has been, I have found meaning in those relationships and like working with those people and facing the challenges of the work with those people. That has made me enjoy on a day-by-day basis more what I do.
It'd be interesting also to hear from somebody who did have a career for 15 years in doing the same thing and then switched.
Pivoting, yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, the guy who became a doctor from ran a shoe store.
Yeah. Entrepreneur to doctor.
I had a friend who went from electrician to pharmacist, and he seems to love that. But yeah, that would terrify me. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just a sissy, but facing that would be really difficult.
Yeah, you just reminded me of a friend that went from pharmacist to military.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. But took their medical knowledge into the military field.
Yeah.
But yeah, big change. Big family life change. But I suppose, I assume is the right word, that he's finding meaning and enjoying and having a passion for that.
It's also harder, I think, to see it in yourself than other people, right? Like, if you came up to me and were like, dude, I'm going to be a CEO of a company, I'd be like, yeah, you are? Do it. That's awesome. Go. Like, yeah, you could do this and this and this. But seeing it in yourself is tough, like, maybe if you came up to me like, dude, I bet you could be the CEO of this or whatever. Like, oh, no, I don't know, the fear and the inadequacy, that's hard too, I think, but somebody who actually says, no, I'm going to go be a pharmacist, and then they do it, like, yeah, I can do that. It's a lot of willpower.
That is. A lot
good for them.
A lot of grit.
I think mine would be more like, I'm going to go be a chess player in the park. I'm going to go be a Chipotle janitor, which actually does sound like a dream job.
If you have those food benefits, dude, I'm down.
How do I get Chipotle to sponsor us? And then we get free burritos.
Every episode we are, making annoying chewing sounds into the microphone like on The Simpsons.
Brought to you by Chipotle. Give me a free Chipotle.
Brought to you by Chipotle. I wake up every morning with burning.
Great today, Bernie tomorrow. Brought to you by Chipotle. Help me be a good provider by providing Chipotle.
There you have it. This episode not sponsored by Chipotle.
Unfortunately.
Maybe the next one.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, as we kind of send you off here, we want to let you know that we do have a YouTube channel. Should be a link in the description. We decided to put together a YouTube channel because in the future we're going to be filming these, so you'll actually be able to see our beautiful faces. But then also YouTube allows for more of an interactive situation where comments can be posted. We can actually have live viewership, so we can answer questions while we're filming, and we can also reply later in the comments if we want to. But we just feel like that will help to better increase our viewership. So in order for that to happen, we need you to share this with your friends, share the YouTube channel with your friends, share the podcast with your friends, hit the like button, subscribe. That will just help us to grow and create a more interactive experience. And once again, this is not for any type of financial benefit. We're just doing this because it's fun. I like it.
It's fun. We're hoping to make a tiny little dent in this big world of ours and just, build a network of, guys like us who are just trying to be their best and do their best. So, yeah, get involved, comment, subscribe, follow, all those great things. Make sure you're getting involved, share it. We would love that. Love to see this thing grow.
A friendly Utah shoulder
to lean on.
To cry on.
And also
don't forget to follow Zach's TikTok account where he does daily dances and gymnastics routines
and poetry.
and poetry.
Don't forget about my poetry channel.
Yes.
Drum poetry. What do they call that?
No idea.
I don't know. Somebody's on a bongo drum. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, like from
Or snapping your fingers.
Goofy movie.
Poetry. Yeah.
An extremely goofy movie.
There you go.
I love
That's
that
me.
movie.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time. Love to hear from you in the meantime.
Peace.